Okay, so we had a look at the introduction. Now we're going to look at the main body paragraph, the first main body paragraph, which will discuss one of the sides. Three questions to think about as we're doing this. Does the topic sentence introduce all the specific parts of the sides, projecting them as a discussion? What do I mean by like all the specific parts of the side? You don't have to do this. You don't have to put every part of that side in the topic sentence. It's just a good idea, because if you put them all there, the examiner thinks tick, tick, tick. Okay, this person is continuing to talk about the specific topic. If, on the other hand, you put nothing in that topic sentence, that first sentence that's connected with the specific topic, the examiner is going to think cross, 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 what's going on here? If you have the main ideas and then later you have the details, that's okay. But as a rule, it's good in that first sentence, your topic sentence, to project, these people believe, and have each part. The next one, the main ideas presented in the paragraph connected to the specific parts of the side. So what can happen is that as you're presenting your main ideas in the paragraph, what are the main ideas? Discuss both sides, two reasons. If it's advantages and disadvantages, then the two main ideas will be two main advantages or two main disadvantages. So here the main ideas will be the two main reasons. Are they connected to the specific parts of the side, the actors that we looked at, and the information and action connected with those actors? And then the last one, do the supporting ideas flow on well from the main ideas? So is there logic? Are the ideas connected? Like, yesterday I went to the beach, chickens are tasty. So those two sentences are correct, but there's no logic between them. Or if there is, it's a strange one. Okay, and then organization here, which I suppose you could call like coherence or linking words, stuff like that. Okay, so I assume that you've already seen or read through the exam task. If you haven't, press pause. What we're going to do is we're going to just look at the ideas. So we'll look at the topic sentence and then the ideas, and then we'll come back to flow. Okay, so those who support high payment. This is our topic sentence. Let's put it in bold. So we're projecting those who support high payment for rates usually do. I think I'd prefer to do so for two main reasons. Okay, so yeah, clear topic sentence. It's discussing. This would be quite bad, I believe. That's not discussing, that's giving your opinion, it's your own argument. Yep. So this is why it's good to have this expression. It is possible to have something indirect, an opinion. It is clear why. That's possible. But the safest thing in a discussion essay is to have a discussion projecting expression. Those who support. Before, I don't know if you remember from the previous video with the introduction, we had a lot of those who, so we could change that to proponents. Okay, proponents, and then we have to have of proponents of high payment rates. One second. Proponents of high payment rates for sports and media stars usually cite two main reasons for their position. Okay. Reasons to justify. That's even better. Okay. So you have to change the structure. But so what was there wasn't wrong. It was okay. But previously we had those who, to avoid that repetition. To justify the position. Okay. Now we need to think about, we've got our projecting, but are we including all specific parts? Now, if we have a look here, if you remember from the exam task, more highly, this is a comparative one. Sometimes you're comparing two things now, sometimes you're comparing the past to the present. If in the task you have to compare the past to the present, in your main body, you're comparing past to present, past to present. If you're asked to talk about the future in the exam task, in your main body, you're talking about the future. So let's have a look here. Proponents of high payment. Bang. No. No. Okay. Maybe later in the paragraph they go back to higher, but here no. So we can see the most typical thing happening in the introduction, the good candidate, specific parts of the task, very focused. In the first main body paragraph, they start to lose that focus. Okay? And that's typical for people who end up getting a 6 for how they answer the question, maximum 7. They have that focus at the beginning, but then they lose focus probably because they didn't think about it too much. So it is easy to think about high. Let's stop and think about this. People working in professions such as in medicine agents should be more highly paid than sports or that's just ridiculous in my opinion. They should be more highly paid. Think about it nowadays. Stars. It's not people who do sports or work in the media. These are the stars. So it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. So how can you be more highly paid than like footballers, for example? I don't know, how much do they earn now? $10 million a year? How can someone who's how can a teacher make $10 million a year? It's just crazy. It's crazy for them to be paid more. So if you think a little bit more about it, you won't forget, or you're less likely to forget. So let's change it. Proponents of higher. And now it's fine. So it's a little difference, but it is a difference. And that's where you get up to 9 or an 8 or a 7. Yeah? People who get the 9, they focus on those little differences. Of higher payments to sports, usually so. Okay, so this is good. Sports or media stars. The problem here is that we have sports or media stars. We've taken out a group of 3 or more words. So that's not good. How can we fix it? Media or sports stars. Bang. No problem. Now we've changed it. Okay, so now we have a very nice topic sentence that introduces all the specific parts of the task. It projects, it's a discussion, and it uses different words. Here, if you use a group of words in your main body paragraphs, it's not as bad as if you do it in the introduction. Usually the examiner in the introduction is looking very carefully, are they using groups of words from the text? If in an introduction you change it round, the examiner ticks you can paraphrase. Later, for example, if you've said it in 4 different ways and then you use that group of words, who cares? You've shown that you can, as well as this way, you can say it 4 other ways. Okay, so it's not as bad, but if you can, think about how to change it a little bit. Okay, now we're going to focus on the ideas. We're going to focus on the ideas. And then we'll come back to organization. So in order to focus on ideas, it's quite useful just to look at the actors. So I'll put them in, let's say, a darker green. Okay, because such stars. So there we have our first art, stars. And then what do they do? Think about what the actors do. I'll put that in light green. They entertain a lot of people. And the next thing they do is they bring joy and entertainment. And maybe in blue, they entertain what? They entertain a lot of people. And they bring a lot of joy and entertainment. So, I think this is a good way. Just look at the actor, or the subject in traditional grammar, the action or verb, the actor, the action, and then the actee, or the object. And if they're the same as in the exam task, then you're talking about the topic. In a different example, you might have something like in the exam task, what should parents and the government do? So that means that you need to have parents do, government do, parents do, the government does. Here we've got stars entertain and bring joy and entertainment. So there's nothing wrong with that, really. We've got the word and you can see the first idea, stars entertain a lot of people, so that's tick. Yep, that's why they should be more highly paid. They entertain a lot of people and bring joy and entertainment into the masses. For me at the moment, it seems to be repeating itself here. Stars entertain and they bring entertainment. So if we took this out, such stars entertain a lot of people, or such stars, if we took out this part here, bring joy and entertainment to the masses. There's no real difference. So you're repeating a little bit of detail there. So again, there's nothing that bad about it. But, you know, thinking about 7, 8, or 9, and in a 9 answer, you're going to use every phrase, every part of each sentence to introduce specific ideas that aren't repeating themselves. Okay, so let's such stars bring joy and entertainment into the masses. Okay, masses is good. It's lots and lots of people. So I like that idea. Joy and entertainment to masses. I might change that, because we're talking about money, so we can think about figures to millions of people. Okay, because such stars bring joy and entertainment to millions of people. Yep. You need to think a little bit carefully here. Millions. Do all stars bring entertainment to millions? Perhaps not. So thousands, if not millions of people. Okay, so now we've got an idea that the examiner can agree with, and it still supports our point very, very well. You know, we're talking about higher payment, thousands, if not millions of people. Okay, bring joy and entertainment. How can we make that like a 9? Into the lives of, into the lives of. So you can see that the sentence before, it was repeating two ideas that were more or less the same. We've taken that away and we've now made that one longer. So the sentence is now the same in terms of length, but the ideas are a lot more specific. Such stars bring joy. I'll just get rid of it. I don't want to focus on little mistakes, but yeah, that one. Bring joy and entertainment into the lives of thousands, if not millions of people. Okay, so that's good. That's our main reason. The actor, stars, and the actions are connected with the idea of why people should make money. For example, Madonna. So when thinking about examples, you need to do two things. Number one, your example needs to be an example of what came before. If I change this to, let's see, who's it? For example, the president of my country. So in the previous one, let's put that in green. Hopefully I can find the same color there. Yep. Okay, so before we had stars here, now we've got president. Is the president a star? It's very, very dangerous. The examiner should keep an open mind. The examiner should think, well, okay, it's possible for that person to believe this. I don't quite agree, but maybe some other people would agree. They have to be quite democratic about it. But president, yeah, it's not a star. It's not an example of that. So Madonna, is Madonna an example of a star? Well, we've got here such stars. So we have to go back and say media or sports. So I'm going to copy and paste that next to Madonna. Is Madonna a sports star? No. So is she a media star? There's a little bit of a question mark there. She's a singer. Is a singer a media star? Now, I think with the president, everyone would agree that's really not a sports or a media star. Perhaps nowadays they're becoming more like that. But yeah, it's just not a safe one. This one here, Madonna, she's a singer. Is a singer a media star? It's a little bit safer. It's definitely safer. I think if you can think of a media star who's like straight from television or some form of maybe the internet, like a YouTube star or something like that, it'll be even safer. But I'm going to leave that because I think, yep, you could consider her to be some sort of media star, but it's dangerous. It's dangerous to start going away too much. Okay, for example, Madonna was extremely well paid for her concerts because... Okay, so this is good. She was extremely well paid for. Again, how can we come back to this higher? She was extremely well paid. So that was the problem. Before, if you remember, we had high. So the writer's continuing this theme of high pay, which is okay, but the specific task is more than. So we've got to have higher. Okay, was extremely well paid. So rather than extremely well paid, was far better paid. Was far better paid for concerts than any teacher could dream of. Okay, so now we've got our comparison. Because if you look back at the exam, let's go back to the exam task. In the one sentence, the two professions are compared. So you should try and keep that theme going. Okay, so now we have our far better. Much better than any other teacher could dream of. Coming back to, will the examiner think this is not true? There are some teachers who can. Then I'll change that to most teachers. So most teachers could dream of. It's a bit safer. Was far better paid for her concerts than most teachers could dream of because any of her performances. So this is good. She's a star of her performances. Gathered full stadiums of fans in any part of the world. So that's a nice repetition of any of her performance in any part of the world. And so you can see now why these people believe they should be higher paid. Because what teacher or doctor, I'll put here, sometimes doctors are very, very well paid in the West. So nurses, generally speaking, no. So, or the most doctors, teachers or nurses could dream of. That's a bit safer. Okay, so this is a very good supporting argument. The main idea was bring joy and entertainment into the lives of thousands, if not millions. So the example, we've got full stadiums, that's thousands. Any part of the world, that's millions. Yeah? And then the idea is she's far better paid. So they're joining the fact that they bring this joy and entertainment. The only thing is we have here joy and entertainment in that sentence. Was far better paid for her concerts than most. And it gathered full stadiums of, maybe with fans, again looking how can we get a 9? With fans, that's already, that means they like it. It means it's entertaining. But we could say adoring fans. And so that idea of adoring, if you don't know, adoring means really like. That idea of adoring fans, it's connected to the idea of joy and yep. So there's a lot of joy and a lot of entertainment there. So now we have something that's connected to the specific part there. For example, Madonna, and the main idea is supported quite well. Yeah. Just quickly, let's have a look. For example, Madonna. If we just say something like, for example, Madonna gathered full stadiums of adoring fans, yeah, that's still okay. The main idea here is such stars bring joy and entertainment. So this, for example, Madonna gathered full stadiums of adoring fans in any part of the world. That continues the idea, so it's okay. But you want to keep bringing it back to that specific parts. And one of those parts is about pay. Okay. Another point why. So that's linking on to our second point. So again, let's have a look. Stars. Okay, so we've got stars. Should be a bit darker there. Okay. Problem here is we've got sports stars. It's a little bit dangerous. And this is where it's really difficult sometimes, because in the specific exam task, it says sports or media stars. The good news is that they have or. So I'll put that in red actually. Why is or important? It's very, very important because it's different from and. And means both. Or means this one or that one. Okay, so when you see or, if you only talk about one of them, in your answer, it's not that bad. It's always best to talk about both because it shows you've paid attention to both. When you have and, you must include both there. So this is what the writer is doing. They've talked about Madonna, who's not a sports star. She's obviously the media one. Here, though, they've changed. This is the problem. So, okay, let's look at ideas first. We'll come back to organization. Sports stars have to be well paid. I like that. I like that. They have to be well paid. But again, not well, but better. So you can see the person lost their focus. They went in their introduction, they're talking about more, but here they had high, well paid. They weren't looking at the comparative. So they lost that. And that's where you come down from a 9 to an 8, possibly a 7. I mean, you're still going to get a good mark because you're talking about the main ideas, but it stops you from getting up to those higher marks. Okay, have to be better paid is because they represent their country at global games. Yeah. For example, the Olympic Games. Okay, so they have to be better paid because they represent their country at global games. So in order to support the previous one, why is it that these media stars should get paid so much? They have to bring joy and entertainment into the lives of thousands, if not millions, of people. Yeah. Here, what do they do? Let's put that in the lighter green there, the action. So I'm just going to get rid of this, just so we can see that idea as it is. Sports stars represent their country at global games. Let's compare those two ideas. Stars bring joy and entertainment into the lives of thousands, if not millions. Sports stars represent their country at global games. So it's not as strong as the previous argument. It's not as strong as the previous argument. It's still there. I can make a guess. Well, okay, so obviously, and that's good. If I'm saying obviously, it's not a big guess. Obviously, if they represent their country, then that's very, very important. Yes? Let me give you one example from a different topic. If you do this, you will die. If you say this, you don't need to explain why this is bad. It's very clear you will die. You don't need to explain why that's bad. When you say stars bring joy and entertainment into the lives of thousands, if not millions, you don't need to explain, this is good because if you bring them, it helps a lot of people. You don't need to explain it. If we look at sports stars represent their country at global games, in my opinion at least, there needs to be a little bit more detail, a little bit information as to why this justifies, why this makes the argument that they have to be paid more. Again, the examiner needs to keep an open mind. Maybe another person will say, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, oh, you represent your country. You have to get a lot of money for representing your country. Yeah. Let's think about how that. Sports stars have to be better paid because they represent their country at global games. So they are part of a tiny elite who represent their country. Okay, so it's not a lot more information, but it's a little bit more information that pushes the argument more. Yeah, they are part of a tiny elite who represent their country at global games. For example, the Olympic Games. Okay, so that's a little bit. Another point they have to be better paid is they are part of a tiny elite. So then the logic is, if you're part of a tiny elite who represents your country at global games, let's have a look at this last sentence. In overall, so I don't want to correct mistakes sometimes. Those who are on the top position in the media deserve high payments due to extreme popularity and demand among people. So this is a summary sentence. It's summarizing the ideas. Is that okay? Sure, you can summarize your ideas. Do you have to summarize ideas? No. So when you put a sentence like this at the end of your paragraph, you need to ask yourself one question, or two questions, I suppose. Am I improving my paragraph by summarizing it? And the answer here, those who are on the top position in either media or sport field top position. Okay, so I had that idea of tiny elite that I put in there. It wasn't there before. So with what I put in there, tiny elite top position, that's quite good. And either media or sport field deserve high payments. Again, higher payments due to their extreme popularity and demand among people. The problem with this one here, you're summarizing the paragraph, you've got popularity and demand, which is true for the example of Madonna, thousands and millions. So this idea of popularity should probably go in the second one about sports stars. Tiny elite who represent the so who achieve fame across their country while representing it. There we go. Okay, sports stars have to be better paid because they are part of a tiny elite who achieve fame. So there we've got the word fame. And that then comes back to popularity. So fame and popularity across their country. Yep. So is there any idea of demand? No, but we've got popularity here. So here we've got popularity and demand. People demand tickets for the concerts. And here at least we've added that idea of popularity. So it was there. I mean, you can make the reader. So there are two people. There's the person who writes this, the person who reads this. The person who writes this often knows, oh, I'm writing this because it means that. The reader doesn't know this. The reader doesn't know what the writer's thinking. So they can only read what's there, and if necessary, if they have to, then try and make some guesses after that. So when the writer here writes popularity and demand, then the reader will look and say, okay, popularity, Olympics, well, you didn't say anything about popularity. But yeah, I suppose I can make that jump. It's a logical jump. I, the reader, can make that jump. Not a 9. Okay? If the examiner has to make jumps, you're not a 9. If the examiner doesn't understand it and jumps that way and jumps that way and jumps that way and still can't make a connection, then that idea is pushing you down to a 5 or a 4. Okay, so making the reader jump. Again, coming back to the example, if you do this, this will die. If you do this, you will die. You don't have to explain that fully because that's 100% clear. This is subjective. This is debatable. But it's in your exam, just play it safe. If you have your idea, fully support. And that's the language they use for a 9 for how you answer your question. Fully supports argument. Okay, you don't have to have a topic sentence. So let's get rid of it. Is this worse now? No, not really. Because they're part of a tiny elite who achieve fame across the country while representing it at global games, for example, the Olympics. Yeah. Again, this is a comparison. So I think to get a 9, we should keep the idea of comparing going. Yeah. While it is true that health workers or teachers, may be popular among those they come into contact with, there is no comparison with those who have reached the top in sports or the media. In terms of popularity, with those who reach the top in sports or the media. Okay, so this is also a kind of summary sentence, but it's comparing. So while it is true that health workers or teachers may be popular among those come into, there is no comparison in terms of popularity of those who reach the top in sports or media. Okay, so we've continued that theme of popularity that we talked about, popular, and we've got the idea of comparison. So we don't directly say that's why they deserve to get paid more. Okay, true that health may be popular, coming together there is no comparison. Okay, so we've continued to that. Okay, coming back to organisation, it flows through quite well. Proponents of higher payments for media or sports stars usually say 2 rounds to justify their opinions. First of all, it is because. We've got here justify the position. We don't need it is because. First of all, such sports stars bring. So there's nothing wrong with it is because, but you got first of all. That stops the flow. It's good here because you want to, this is my first big point, and that's why I'm stopping the flow. But then first of all, it is because it takes too long to get to this main actor. Such actors into lives, if not millions, for example. Now, one thing you can do, when you've got like first of all, for example, at the beginning of every sentence, it's not the subject, it's a signal to the examiner that you're just mechanically putting this in. It's what everybody learns to do. At the beginning of each sentence, put a linking word and you'll get a 9. Go away, get onto the internet, find any opinion or discursive article, and have a look at how many sentences have something that's not the subject at the beginning. It's very rare. It's only typical in something like cooking instructions. First, take the sugar, then take the milk. What you can do, Madonna, for example, you can just put it after the subject, and this shows to the examiner that you have flexibility in organisation. You know, Madonna, for example, was far better paid. Okay, and then that flows a little bit better now. The next thing here, another point why, that's a little bit mechanical because you've got sports stars, whereas here there was nothing about sports stars. And the word another as a linking word, well, what colour can be linking? Let's make linking pink. Okay, so another point why sports stars, that's a linking word, another point why, but it's not sports, it should be media. If you use another, then you're linking back to the media example. But here we're not talking about the media, so that means we need to change this. Yeah? Concerning, and then we can change that sports stars. They too. Okay. And then here's your another. I've changed it to there. And so that too is linking it back to the previous idea, but concerning is signaling to the reader that you're going on to a slightly different one. Okay, so I just need to read that again. Any part of the world, concerning sports stars, they too have to be better paid. Okay, and then because they're part of a tiny elite achieving all resident. The Olympic Games. Well, it is true they help. Okay, and then in terms of organisation, one little thing to think about, which is okay, at the end of the paragraph, I'm talking about popularity. There's nothing here in the exam task about popularity. It's at the end, it's not a problem. If I come back later in the essay to again link popularity. I also did it here. Madonna, for example, was far better paid, could dream of, yeah, because. So earlier in the paragraph, I linked popularity and demand, well, not me, the writer, linked popularity and demand with pay. So I don't need to put anything in my organisation here to again link it because it's already been linked, and so this actually flows on quite well. Okay, that's it for this. We're not going to look at lexical resource or grammatical range and accuracy because what we want to do is we want to get a 9 for how we answer the question, and it's much easier to push how you answer the question up to an 8 at least than it is to go from, let's say, a 7 to an 8 in the grammar or a 7 to an 8 in lexical resource. Okay, let's move on to the next paragraph. Okay, IELTS, discuss both sides. Writing Part 2 essay. In this video, we'll look at the second body paragraph. If you haven't seen the videos with the introduction and the first body paragraph, they'll be in the link below. Watch them first. So like with the first body paragraph, main body paragraph, I suppose number 2, we need to think about these 3 questions. Does the topic sentence introduce all the specific parts of the side? Does it project? Are the main ideas presented above connected to the specific parts of the side? And do the supporting ideas flow on well from the main ideas, logic and organization? So let's if you need to press pause and have a read of the exam statement again. If not, please keep watching. So let's have a look at the topic sentence. I'll put it in bold. So quite a long one, that's okay. Maybe if it's shorter, that's a bit more desirable. But let's have a look. So others, however, that's a nice linking word to connect. You can put however at the beginning. That's also okay. But if you put it here, then it shows the examiner that you know it can be put there. It shows a little bit of flexibility. Highly skeptical that media and sports idols have to be paid comparably high. It doesn't say compared to what, but it's clear from the previous paragraph, so that doesn't matter. And it continues, it's good. It's got that comparably high because we need to compare in this essay. And fully support high error payments, so that's good. We can see, if you remember in the previous paragraph, the writer lost that. They just had high. But here we've got comparably higher for those who commit themselves to medical or educational professions. Okay, so it does seem to introduce everything. Medicine education, more highly paid than sports and media. It projects. Others are highly skeptical that. Does it use different words, which isn't in the three questions there, but it does use different words there. Yeah, so it's a long topic sentence, but it does everything that a topic sentence needs to. Okay, let's now have a look at the body paragraph. So it should focus in on medicine professions and education professions. So let's have a look. Doctor, that's a good start. Medical person. So doctors do something. Doctors do something. Doctor takes a lot of effort for studying, could take up to 10 years for them before becoming well qualified and recognizing their area of specialization in order to treat others successfully. Okay, so that's a reason. Do you have to have something at the beginning here? One reason for this is... Now, you don't have to have something there. You don't have to. This is okay, because logically it flows quite well. If you're not sure if it does flow logically, then you can put there one reason for this is being a doctor. So I'll leave it there, but you don't have to have it. Being a doctor takes a lot of effort for study. Okay, so this is a comparative essay. You have to compare one side to the other side. And so when you say doctor takes a lot of effort, so that's the key information here. It takes a lot of effort. Thinking about the other side, the previous paragraph about sports and media stars. I mean, to reach an elite level in sports, it takes a lot of effort. So when it comes to the third question, do the supporting ideas flow well from the main ideas in terms of logic and organizational logic? So, well, the reason why the reason why doctors should be better paid is it takes a lot of effort to study. But if you want to become an elite sports athlete, it takes a lot of effort. From my experience of teaching people who wanted to become elite tennis players, they dedicated a lot more time than anyone I've seen dedicate to something. So the idea should be it takes a lot of effort, a lot more effort for study than it does So that you don't have to write this, you don't have to compare everything, but that's the general idea. Than it does to become sports star. I suppose that's true. Sports stars don't have to study, but then that means that the key point is, have to study and therefore they should get paid more, because training is one thing, but studying, no, you should get paid more if you study a lot. Yeah, so that's the problem there. Than it does to become a sports star. It could take up to 10 years. So that's good. The writer's providing detail, proving their point. Become well qualified and recognized in their area of specialization in order to treat others successfully. Okay, so that point is about they have to work hard in order to treat others successfully. Okay, so that's the fact. And I can guess already that's why they should be paid more. Medical professions do deserve, so still on the medical professions, higher payment. So that's good. Now we're getting straight. This is better. They do deserve higher payment. So again, with this previous point about a lot more effort, you don't have to have that. I'll take it out. A lot of effort for study. Bang. And could take, because the key idea is it takes a lot of effort for study and therefore deserve high payment due to the complexity of their specialization. Okay. So that's complexity. I mean, being an elite sports star, is that complex? Okay, maybe. We have to accept this. So it's not bad. An importance of such an occupancy for a society. Aha! For a society. Importance for society. Okay, so in the previous paragraph, the writer talked about how people like Madonna could get a lot of fans anytime, any place, and therefore they were very important for many people, or something like that. So is this more? So I think just to make, like, you've got here, they deserve a higher payment, a comparative, then a better and complexity of the specialization, and relatively greater importance of such an occupancy. So relatively greater importance. Doctors save lives. Stars don't. Stars do not. Stars do not. So not the best sentence because it's a little short. I'm going to leave it as a short sentence because it's a long paragraph already. But I think, yeah, this point here is okay. There are reasons there, but it's not pushed until the end, connected to the specific question, which is about getting more. You do more, therefore you get more. You study more, therefore you get more. You bring more to society, therefore you get more money. Okay. So it doesn't take much, just that relatively greater importance. And then if you think it's not 100% clear or 90% clear why that means they should get more money, then something, doctors save lives. That really drives the point home. So depending on time and how much space you have, you may or may not add something like this final point that drives it home. Let's keep reading. Applying the same logic for those who become a teacher, it could be said that teaching others. So this is a good switch, those who become a teacher. That's a good change to the teaching side of things, so talking about everything. It could be said that teaching others implies a lot of responsibilities. Okay. A lot of responsibilities. So this is good. This is good because they talked about before importance for society, treat others successfully, and here we've got regarding others. So there's a good flow of ideas, a logical flow of ideas of these people doing things for others. Interesting enough, perhaps here, rather than start with a doctor takes a lot of effort to study, if the key point is that they help others, maybe you could just put one reason for this is doctors play a much more vital role in helping others in society stay healthy and even alive. So then you have the key point, bang. There's nothing in the criteria that says you have to start with the key point and then move on to the details. It's just a bit safer if you start with the key point. Although it is possible to start from further back and then come into your key point. That's okay. So as it is, it's okay. Is, bang, is being a doctor. Okay, I'll just move this down a little bit. Okay, implies a lot of responsibility regarding others. Okay, our society depends. So this is good, our society. That's a nice switch. That we're others and then others. And then here's a new actor. It's not teachers, it's not doctors, it's our society. But the flow up until this has been very good because they've been talking doctors do this for others. Teachers do this for others. And then from others to our society. Depends on the quality of education, level of qualification of those who teach us. This is good. It is clear that those who work in education and medicine play a vital role in the public and have to be paid more. So again, the summary sentence. I think instead of having summary sentence, you can combine the last point with the doctor point. So just as our society relies on doctors and nurses to maintain good health, something like that. It also depends on the quality of education, level of qualification of those who teach us. So maybe as we have us at the end here, it might be better to put we also. We also depend. Okay, so by putting this doctor and nurses here with the same sentence, then we achieve the same effect as a summary. We're linking the two ideas together. And that is a good idea. It is a good idea. A lot of candidates who organize things a bit more mechanically, in the first part of the writing, here they'll talk about doctors. And then in the second half of this paragraph, they'll talk about teachers. What makes your writing stronger is if you can link them together. And this author has done that by focusing on how useful they are for society. So generally it flows quite well. Just a little bit more specificity of comparing and then trying to merge or join the ideas rather than just have a basic summary sentence. Because if your paragraph's clear, you don't need a summary sentence. Like I said, you can have a summary sentence by making the last sentence of the second point connected. And the key one here is just as. Just as, maybe I'll put that linking word in a different color. Let's have blue. Just as we also. There we go. So just as blah, 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 we also blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's it for that paragraph. Now we can have a look at the conclusion.